Today we're going to make a chocolate babka. It's basically an Eastern European brioche bread, and it's swirled around in chocolate and it tastes really yummy. So the first step is to actually make the dough, which takes a while to rise. So I'll start by making the dough. This recipe is going to make 2 loaves. So if in case you want to make just one, you can cut the recipe in half.
So we've got 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and then we've got 2 eggs, and then we also need 2 egg yolks. Then we have half a cup of sugar. We've got 150 grams of salted butter. We've got 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/3 cup of lukewarm water, and 1/3 cup of milk as well. So I've just combined both of these together in a cup. And then we need 1 tablespoon of yeast.
So we'll start by adding 1 tablespoon of yeast to the water and milk mixture over here. Basically 1 tablespoon also equals 3 teaspoons. So I just have a teaspoon lying around. So I'm just going to add 3 of these. So that's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. Okay. So that's done. To that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of sugar. And that's just going to be set aside for about 5 minutes till I make the flour mixture. We've got 4 cups of flour. To that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon that I have over here. So I'm just going to sprinkle that over. To that, we're going to add 2 large eggs. So I've got 1 here. 1, 2, and then we're going to measure 2 egg yolks. Now I've added 2 egg yolks, so everything is in this mixture. I'm just going to mix it a little bit with my spoon. You can possibly even use a beater or a stand mixer. I would suggest, in case you're using a stand mixer, use the paddle attachment. Don't use the whisk, because everything is just going to stick in the whisk attachment and it will be really hard for you to actually remove all the mixture from the whisk. So either use a wooden spoon or just a regular spoon. I'm just using the basic utensils that you need to make this, so that no one feels that it's difficult to make it. I'm going to add the sugar in this as well now. It's done. Now I'm going to make a well in the center, and we are going to add this mixture. You can see that it has some bubbles on the top. That's what we want. That means the yeast is reacting with the warm mixture. So I'm going to add the yeast in the middle, and I'm going to knead the dough for maybe 2 minutes. So I've mixed the dough for about 2 to 3 minutes. I thought that it had a little less liquid mixture, so I added like a tablespoon of water to this to mix it well. Now I've got a lightly floured surface over here. I'm going to transfer the dough to my floured surface, and now we're going to slowly keep on adding butter. So I have the butter cut into small pieces. So I'm just going to take 1 piece, put it in the middle, and now I'm going to just knead the dough with that butter. Just like that. kneaded the dough for about 5 minutes, and till the time I couldn't see any butter in the dough, I stopped then. What we need to do now is we need to transfer this into a bowl, cover it and let it sit for at least 2 hours. Sometimes it even takes people up to 6 hours for the dough to rise completely, but I think 2 hours should be enough. I'll let you know how long it took my dough to rise. While we're waiting for the dough to rise, I'm going to make the filling of the dough. What I'm using is 200 grams of dark chocolate and 100 grams of butter. What I'll do is, I've got my little pan over here with some water. I'm going to turn the stove on, and when it starts simmering, I'm going to put this on the top. So make sure that the bottom doesn't touch the water. And put this on the top and melt the butter and chocolate together. And then it just needs to come to room temperature before I put it on my bread.
We just need to keep mixing. The chocolate shouldn't be at the bottom. It should be all mixed in with the butter, just so that the chocolate doesn't burn. It's very easy for dark chocolate or even white chocolate to burn, so just make sure that you keep on mixing it.
So my dough has actually doubled in size. It's been roughly 2 hours. Actually now it's been a little more than 2 hours, but after 2 hours it looked exactly like this. I'm going to divide this dough into 2 portions because we're going to make 2 loaves. I've got my 2 baking pans lined, this one lined with parchment paper, and this one I've just oiled and sprinkled some flour on it. So I'm going to divide this into 2 portions and line each portion with the chocolate filling that I have over here that we made previously. So one portion is just going to come over here, and the other portion will deal with it later. So I floured my surface a little bit. And then just I can use my hands as well, or you can use a rolling pin. That's completely up to you. I think it's easier for me with hands, and maybe at the end I will use my rolling pin. I'll just use a little more flour at the bottom, so it doesn't stick. I'm going to use half of the filling on this one, and we're going to spread a very thin layer on the whole of this. So that's done. Now I'm going to roll it very carefully, starting from one end. Try to make it a tight roll. And take your time in doing this. You don't need to be really quick. I've got a baking tray over here. I'm going to transfer this to my baking tray, and then it's going to be chilled in the fridge for about 10-15 minutes. My dough has been in the fridge for about 10 minutes, and now I'm going to slit it from the center. So just use a sharp knife cut it from the center till the very end. We separate them like this and then just roll them over one another. Now I've got my baking pan and I'm going to put it in the pan. We're going to let it rest in the same pan for about 30 minutes and then we're going to bake it in the oven. Now the chocolate babka is in the oven. I have put it at 180 degrees and it's going to be there for about 35 to 40 minutes or until the skewer comes out clean. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sugar syrup that's going to be poured on top of the babka as soon as it comes out of the oven. I've got like 1/3 cup of, I had raw sugar at home, coconut sugar, so I'm going to use that. You can use granulated sugar or whatever you have at home. So 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, and to that I'm going to add 1/3 cup of water and a hint of vanilla extract. You can use a paste as well, and we're going to warm this up on the stove till it thickens up. Okay, so I've just taken these out of the oven. As I mentioned before that it would take roughly 35 to 40 minutes, so every oven is different. In mine, this was done at 24 minutes at 180 degrees. I checked with the skewer and it came out clean. I've got my sugar syrup over here. It doesn't need to thicken too much. It would thicken once it's poured over the babka. It's very dark in color and I'm going to slowly spread some of it, pour some of it over each. And then it needs to stay in the pan for some time, and then when it's cooled down, you can cut it into slices and serve it. You can have it with tea, coffee, with whatever you like. And thank you so much for watching the video and hope you enjoy this.